Another week, another video. So in this video, I'm going to go into part 2 of my journey of how I became a prop trader. If you haven't seen part 1, I'm going to link it somewhere around here or here, I don't know. Let's get straight into it. In part 1, I talked about being a high-profile session musician, which is where a lot of people know me from. I wanna scream out loud. But as the music industry kind of got more and more affected by the recession of 2008, eventually the standard of my gigs started going down, and my performance fees went down with it. I got swine flu. I wasn't the healthiest anyways, you know, it was very much a nightlife kind of lifestyle. And yeah, I started to question my life choices, and I had a bit of an epiphany that basically I couldn't really see myself doing the whole music thing and jumping around the world and on planes, working yourself to death. And at that point, you know, I was getting slightly older, you know, I was getting towards the end of my 20s. I started dabbling in the markets back in 2007, I believe. So it was, you know, it was a while ago. And I eventually came across supply and demand trading and actually became a pretty darn good swing trader. And I traded the initial sort of £2,000 all the way to just under $250,000. But that was like over a period of 2 years. So I decided I wasn't scaling up quickly enough. And that's where this video starts from. Me deciding to go into prop trading as like this new mission in life that I had. Now, you know, finding a job in a prop trading company without having come from like your traditional economic background sort of type, it was quite the challenge. So my degree was in music. I had a master's degree in flute. And I mean, they teach you stuff like methodics of practice, and you learn music theory, and you even have like physics and acoustics and stuff like that. You know, I was quite academic, but I didn't come from, you know, I grew up in Serbia, in Belgrade. My whole expertise was music, and definitely not from any known universities from the UK or the States or anywhere. So that was you know, it was a huge challenge. And I mean, sure, I had this like 6-figure account, but it was just my account. I was an independent trader. I wasn't audited. My records were not verified. You know, so it's not like I could just jump into a prop trading job. But, you know, because I had built my account up to that point, you know, $250,000 from basically a very small amount, I genuinely thought I was like some kind of a lesser god at that point. Like way too overconfident for the amount of experience that I had or didn't have as a trader, as I will soon find out. And because I didn't work for any other prop trading companies at the time, I first had to prove that I'm good enough, so I had to trade for them on a simulated account for about 2 to 3 months. And, you know, I genuinely thought, this is going to be easy, I'm going to ace it, like I'm going to fucking ace it. But I think very few people are actually aware of the true harshness and reality of prop trading. Now, first off, as a novice trader, the first thing that hit me was that you're not allowed to carry over futures overnight, especially before you've built up any kind of a profit buffer in the account. So it's all intraday. And, you know, once you've built up the profit buffer, then you can kind of renegotiate that risk parameter. But it never even occurred to me that I was going to be very ill-equipped as an intraday trader, because I was a swing trader. I held my positions anywhere from about 2 weeks to about 2-3 months, you know. So my first week, I started sim trading, and it was a complete car crash. I had no idea what I was doing, right? I knew where my supply and demand levels were on a large time frame, but my stop loss sizes, they were massive. They were way too large. I was using like 50 to 80 tick stop losses. Like ridiculous. And then, you know, end of day would come and I would have to close the trade. Like whether it was in some profit or not, it didn't really matter. But the problem that I kept having is that the risk reward wasn't enough. So I would have a tiny bit of profit or a loss, a tiny bit of profit and a loss. And then the next day I would come in, the market would already move. I was trading euro dollar or euro futures. But because this was a Chicago company, by the time that I would get to trade, the markets would already move. So I really didn't know how to get back in on a trade. I kept missing entries. But then, after that first week, I still told myself, hey, it's okay, it's fine. It'll be fine. I'll find a way to work around this and whatever. So I muddled my way through that first trial and managed to end up in kind of just enough profit and accuracy to be allowed access to the live trading account. I was very excited. I'm like, okay, great. Okay, so it didn't go exactly as I planned, but I've got a live account. It's cool. Now, here's how that went. At this particular company, the way it works is that you're given a monthly loss limit. So you don't have a daily loss limit, which a lot of the prop trading companies have now. You're given a $20,000 monthly loss limit. Now, I had no clue about the loss limits. That was like a new concept for me. Then there was other things like maximum position sizes. There was also a desk fee, which was like $3,000 before you even start, because it's a Bloomberg terminal. Once you start live, no matter what happens in your account, whether you're up or down, you still have to pay the desk fees. And you can recoup them once if you've had a losing month, and then you have a profitable month, that's when you recoup the desk fees. So it's really difficult, right? In the first month of trading live, I went a bit crazy because I lost control over my emotions and I hit the monthly loss limit in about 1 day. And I got sent back to simulated trading. When I hit the loss limit, I went through every emotion imaginable, but mainly just frustration and anger over myself, because you can't really blame anyone else. I was the one doing the trading. I was mostly just frustrated that I even allowed myself to get to that point, because I knew, about the emotions and stuff. It's not like I haven't traded before. I had this, 6-figure account. And even though in prop trading terms, it's like peanuts, $250,000, it's like, meh, whatever. But to me, it was, it was like quite an achievement. So I was still, I still had some skills, obviously. I started doing some research, right? So I wanted to learn how to master this new challenge that was in front of me. I don't really give up. Whoever knows me, they know that I never do anything halfway. And I don't back down from a challenge either. I will rise up to it. I don't moan. Maybe I'll moan and bitch for about like 5 to 10 minutes, but then after that, I'm just like, you know what? I can't change this, so I'm gonna do my best going forward. I don't really dwell much on the past. And like I said, I started doing research and I figured out a way to enter my supply and demand zones, but only once the daily range got exhausted. This was way before I learned market profile. This little strategy tweak did get me profitable, so I was already back trading on the 3rd month. Now, month 3, without any payouts or any profits, I'm kind of sitting in about, $7,000, $8,000 of desk fees. So the stress is mounting. The expectations of doing well, and people are asking you, hey, how's it going? And over the years, I kind of learned not to talk about my trading and how things are going, because it's pointless. It's completely pointless. You're basically focusing on win-loss mentality. And years later, I've learned that that's actually really bad for a trader, because ultimately you're supposed to be following the profitability of your method and not any kind of single trade outcome. But that kind of maturity kind of comes after a number of years when you've been doing this. So back to my desk fees mounting and the stress levels. One great thing about the prop firms that do have that sort of a business model is that they only pay you out 20% from profits on the month that you have profits. But the rest of the 80% goes to your risk allowance. And this means that if you've had the first month profitable, the next month you can scale up crazy quick. This sort of model allows a new trader to scale up and to really generate some serious amount of cash very quickly. But for novice traders who, you still don't have a solid intraday strategy, Having the initial $20,000 to play around with is just ludicrous. It's a crazy amount of freedom. So all the whilst this is all happening, I was still trying to find a professional course geared for prop traders. But no, I couldn't find anything. All I could find was scammy blokes who are peddling like RSI, moving averages, blah, 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 all of that, nonsense. And they want anywhere from 9,000 to 25,000 for like a 3-day course, not even like a program. It was just like 3 days. And then they kept focusing not on the actual strategy that they used to apparently get this money. No, they focused on, look at my riches and look at my Ferrari and all of that. But trading for me was never necessarily about material wealth. It's a puzzle. And I know I could solve it because obviously I had long periods of ridiculous profitability that got me my first account. So now I had a new challenge. And that's the thing that kept me going. Markets at that time were also starting to get a lot of lateral movement. So that wasn't very good for swing trading. I knew that I had to step up my game. I knew that there was this thing that I wasn't particularly good at, which was intraday trading. Which is odd because the intraday trading is all that I do now. So it just shows you how adaptive your brain really is. And then another thing in the prop trading company that was playing on my mind, you have the desk fees mounting, you have the stress mounting. At the end of the day, when you work for that kind of a prop trading company, everyone gets a statement at the end of the day with everyone's positions, right? And the position sizes they're taking are not in the standard lots. They're in actual position sizes. And as a comparison, when you're trading one lot size, you're actually trading 100,000 units of underlying currency in dollars of whatever you're trading. So there I was, still starting out trading like 1 to 2 lots with my 100,000, 200,000 underlying positions. And these guys who have been doing this for like 10, 15 years, they're there kind of executing 150 and 200 lot sizes, which is like 15 million. So you see these statements where it says like, initial risk taken, 15 million, profit, 30 million. And I was like, wow, okay. I genuinely felt out of my depth. It was a very high-moneyed environment. Another difficulty was that I was moved from Forex desk to equities desk. Remember that up until that time, the only thing that I ever traded was euro dollar, with occasionally kind of going into euro yen or dollar yen. And that was everything I did. But they had an opening in equities and I got shoved over to there. So now I had to start trading something called ES, ES futures. I knew about S&P 500, of course, but I didn't know what ES futures even meant. I was so green, prop trader D who doesn't know anything about ES mini. Fish out of water, right? But around about that time, my risk manager, who was still trading himself, total legend, by the way, he actually traded alongside Jim Dalton. So he was holding these mentoring sessions for everyone who was interested in learning more about how he trades. So I asked whether I could start, attending those. And I basically spent the next few weeks soaking up every little bit of his explanations on how market profile works, how he uses it, everything about TPOs, trade locations, what's a good trade location, what's a bad trade location. I was probably the one who was asking so many questions that everyone else got annoyed with me. It's like every time I would ask a question, they would be like, oh, God, not you again. But I didn't care. I was there to learn. So it's like, it's not my problem that you don't want to ask a question. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I annoyed everyone there. Alongside with me kind of asking all of my questions, I was also journaling my own market observations in relation to whatever he was saying. So I would be noticing the event, the set of conditions that existed, what time I went in, what kind of a stop loss I used, whether the trade would have been profitable and whether it would survive on a smaller stop loss, something that's very important for intraday trading, scalability of your stops. And then bit by bit over the next couple of months, I gathered enough data and enough market profile knowledge to be able to start combining that with what I already knew about supply and demand trading. And then within the next few weeks, my P&L just skyrocketed. So suddenly I was an intraday trader. I cracked it. I knew how to do it. And at that point, I started making about $40,000 in payouts. And I mean, sure, I had losing months. I had some scratch months. It was up and down. Everyone works on their profitability and consistency over, a number of years. So it would probably take me another extra couple of years on top of that to really tighten everything up and to become really consistent, where I could be up on almost every month. But that whole process that I went through, that was the birth of my way of trading, which is now known as the Market Stalkers method. Now, at the same time when my P&L transformation was happening, I also underwent, a personality transplant. I was always a very passionate person, and quite a few times I would be accused of not being very tactful because I was very explosive and I didn't know how to keep my mouth shut for a lot of the stuff. But through this process, I developed endless amounts of patience, and I completely lost any desire to argue back. On a daily basis, you're always faced with challenging situations when you're a trader. And if you're going to react every single time they happen, every time a stop loss gets hit, if you're going to be like, oh, I hate that. Why did that happen? No, that's reactive. So when you remove yourself and you from that emotionality and just reacting to whatever is happening, suddenly everything else becomes really zen. Now, some years later, I got a bit curious and I'm like, oh, I wonder if someone actually created a professional standard course for prop traders, for anyone wanting to learn how to trade professionally. And I still couldn't find anything. Nothing. It was still all the same nonsense from back in the day. And by then I was a senior trader. I was mentoring other people already, because as a senior trader, that's kind of a part of your job anyways, not just in trading, but in any job. And then eventually I started mentoring more and more people, and that started to eat into my free time. So to prevent myself from repeating things over and over and over and over to 40 different people, I decided to make a little YouTube video about supply and demand use intraday. And to my surprise, within, I was so awkward in it. I had this huge purple hair because I was still kind of, coming from that musician mindset, and I wanted to keep a part of myself. I mean, even these days, most of the year, I will have screaming red hair, I guess. But to my surprise, that video got over 10,000 views in the space of a few days. And that was ridiculous to me. It's some obscure strategy that few people know about. And suddenly I was inundated with even more questions. And the questions were like, hey, where can I buy the course? So with all these questions about whether I have a course and where they can buy it, I started to think, maybe I should sit down and create a really structured course. Something that, I've never seen before. And all you had in all of the courses that, that were being offered, I mean, even in the books, you just have some dude waffling on about anything and everything that they could think of. Like I said, I never do anything halfway, so it took me 18 months to create my professional development program. So in a way, we're still quite new to the market. Blahtech has only been in existence for, in this sort of incarnation, for about 4 or 5 years. And then the courses didn't really come up until about 3 years ago. And I had no clue how to get the course out there. I just had this passion, but I had no idea how to do marketing. I am a geek, I'm quite resourceful, but I was never a marketer or a saleswoman. With every student that's come to me, the fact that I don't pretend that I'm some kind of a master mathematician. I've nearly failed maths in elementary school. Yay. There's certain transferable skills that I do have, like photographic memory, and I am analytical, but maths and stuff was really never my strong suit. And to this day, if I can avoid it, I understand it really well, but I don't have much interest in it if it's not applied maths, if that makes sense. I like numbers, but I don't like pure maths. I also don't pretend that trading is easy, right? Because it isn't. The mentoring portal that I run, it's very different from everything that you've come across. If you've ever signed up for like a mentoring trading service, you can see the video that I posted about how it all works. I don't do audio commentary there. In fact, the focus is not on me at all. The focus is on the student, on you, and what you know so far, and what you're struggling with. I always hated audio commentary in the prop firms. There will be, some trader that starts misbehaving, and then you're supposed to be on the audio at all times, and suddenly the risk manager is shouting off the top, and these people have these boomy voices that like you cannot phase them out. So suddenly they're shouting, "Stop trading!" And I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, do you not have private messaging? Or maybe if private messaging fails, they can always cut them off. But no, they had to shout in everybody's ear to try and control the trader that's gone a little bit nuts on the day. It annoyed the hell out of me. So no, I don't do any audio commentary. You want audio commentary? Here I am on YouTube. And I swore that, if I ever started my own prop trading firm, which was also a dream of mine at the time, that I would never have the sort of a setup where everyone else's attention is disrupted because I decided it's okay to start, getting super excited over a move in a product. So that's it. That's how I got started, and that was my experience with prop firms. Once I, made kind of enough money and I scaled up to a degree, I decided that I didn't really want to get up at 5 a.m. and to kind of leave the office at 10 p.m. At one point, I was sleeping on gym loungers because I was so tired. So to me, that wasn't really a life. I started to trade to get more time, not less. So if you'd like to finally move forward with your trading skills and make that drastic jump in your trading performance, you'll find all the relevant links to my professional development course in the description box. Until next time, trade safe, and I'll see you then.